shock peening in collaboration with the National Laser Center of the CSIR, Airbus, and several international institutions. So today she'll be sharing some of her wisdom about how our scientific research can be used to contribute to an ever-evolving industry. So welcome, Prof. Palese, and I'll hand over to you now if you're ready.
Sorry, Prof. Just unmute your mic, Prof. We're not able to hear you, Prof. Unmute your mic. Just unmute. I think it's muted. Yes. Maybe as we're waiting for others to join, I'll just try to contact Prof separately and try to resolve this. Malebo, just invite everyone, and then I'll just coordinate with Prof. Let's just give people a chance to join. Thank you, Malebo.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, now we can. Thank you very much.
Sorry. It's the new headset.
So Malebo, the floor is yours. Take care, Prof.
Sorry about that. It's just as I say, I'm trying to move everything to the desktop so I don't have to go around with this tiny laptop. But you know, I'm missing some bits and pieces. Okay, so I'm hoping that everyone is in the right at the right spot. You know, is just struggling with the link for Teams. Thank you so much for your kind words. So I was thinking, I'm not sure, you know, you stopped me because I'm not sure how much time I have. So I'm carry on talking, and then when you're bored, you just stop me, please. So as just a little bit of background, you know, to give you an idea of why I'm involved on this kind of research. So as you can probably see, obviously guess from my accent, I'm not from South Africa. I moved here 11 years ago. I basically I was studying aerospace engineering in Pisa. You know, where you see the Leaning Tower in Italy. So our aerospace department is exactly behind that. So what is the story? Just maybe, as I say, it was because of the group of people I started to work with, but I was always very passionate about practical things, laboratory, technology, and so forth. So I've always been working with people that he was working what we were calling practical, you know, or research rather than just, you know, like theoretical research. At the time, there was obviously the big boss of our department, you know, very, very, very old style gentleman, and it would say, "Oh no, you guys, you know, you need to stay into the pure research field. You can't, you know, like make your hands dirty, you know, with the practical stuff." Unfortunately, that's kind of a nice idea, but first it was not what we like to do, and second there was also another reason, very, you know, very practical reason. The system, let's say the university system overseas, it's a public system. Doesn't mean it is free, but in any case means that you get in some money from the government. But obviously that doesn't really cover much. So if you want to do something that is more practical research, you need to basically go out and find funds by yourself. Otherwise, what you get obviously with public funding, it probably will pay for paper, so some printing. You can't do much more than that. So what happened is that together, and as I say, obviously there I was still relatively young, we we really created a nice group of people. There was obviously mostly postgraduate, and maybe some at the time some teaching assistant, and we started to work and go out. Obviously, at the time with the industry in the aeronautical space and in aerospace area, and try to see what kind of research we can do together. So what happened there is that we try to find kind of demand interest that was already into industry, and out of that obviously we will get two things. First, obviously a nice collaboration, that it was important for our research, that it was obviously important for our the topic and the specific area that we want to investigate it more. But also what it was nice is that obviously we can get also some funds. So that obviously is not something that will make us rich, but means that we can expand maybe the research facility that we have. We can have, a little bit more funds available for conference, to go out and carry on our activities. So that means that there was obviously kind of a practical push for us to move a little bit more into this practical direction, but it's also something that it really helps us a lot, because then we can actually move, we have more freedom, more resources, more funds to actually do what we like. So sometimes we also took research. I must admit that we were not really, super excited, but it was maybe good funds, that will help us to move to spend more in what we really like to do. So when I moved to South Africa, this, let's say, was a little bit my mindset, a nice network, a nice team of people that was working with me, a nice network of people in industry that we can discuss. We have obviously that they have they're working in similar areas what we will do. And when I arrived in Johannesburg, that was at the very beginning for me. I don't want to say the problem, but I would say rather the challenge, because now, sure, I know what I like to do. I have a lot of specific interests on some specific technology, but I didn't know many people, not at WITS and not obviously in the country. So that was for me, if you want, a little bit of the bigger obstacle, because now I don't want to say that I have to restart from scratch, but almost, because obviously now I need to go out and recreate, if you want, my network and my team, and try to obviously to create the facility, acquire the experimental facility that I need. So if you want, sure, I was a member of staff, but I don't think I was in a situation too different from you guys when you're starting to plan, or when you're starting to work on your postgraduate studies, because you need to find your ground. You need to to find the route, okay, and the way forward for what you would like to do. So my recommendation, if you want, my suggestion here for you guys to try to move a little bit more in this direction, it would be, first, try to find obviously, or try to define a topic that you are passionate about. Obviously I'm talking about more technical stuff, but even if you guys coming from, I don't know, humanities, the important thing is that you're starting to work on something that you really like. But at the same time, don't get lost into your tiny office, or your postgraduate office on your own, and just get stuck on a specific topic without contact with the external world. Now, I know that obviously TCA things are a little bit complicated. Everything that involves socializing, it's obviously more challenging. But it can. The idea is that in any case is that you need to go outside your shell, and try to be a little bit brave, to not be shy, to actually go out and try to find some information. So, for example, my suggestion would be, first, obviously work on a topic that is interest for you, but then also try to understand what. Even talking with your postgraduate supervisor, what kind of interest is out there regarding that specific topic, which company can have some interest, which organization, with which research institution, can have something that is aligned with what you have to do. And sometimes doesn't have to be in the same field. I mean, at this stage, we have been doing work together, obviously from, mechanical and aero engineering, but as obviously Rodney knows very well, we develop a lot of network with chemical and metallurgical engineer. We work with paleontology, people in physics. Sometimes we get in contact also with people from medical school. So don't be shy and try to explore other possible connection. Okay, that it would be, I would say, the first things to do. That means that the topic you're working in, as long as I say, pure research, there's nothing wrong with that. Otherwise the theoretical physicists will struggle to make a living. But you need to try to see if there is actually maybe interest or some sort of interest that can be aligned with that. The second thing that I would say, and as I said, the moment that you have some idea, don't be shy to actually propose to your supervisor, because as I say, we busy with all the due respect. Sometimes we also stuck in our ways. So obviously, in a very polite way, what you can actually do is just approach your supervisor and say, look, I saw there is this company, there is this organization, there is this publication, people working in this direction. What do you think? Maybe you can just slightly change and adjust your research activity to basically cater research in that specific direction. And then the other thing that I will suggest is try, obviously within the limits of the space that you're working with, to try to create a team. I think for me that is the most important thing, because if you're isolating yourself in your activity, everything becomes more complicated. The more you have people around you that, even if they're not working on your same topic, maybe you're using a similar microscope or a similar type of experimental equipment, they're doing a similar type of simulation and so forth. Okay, the more you have a network of people that you can tap in any times that you struggle, any times that you have a challenge, any times that you need a little bit of help. It's actually strengthening your research and also growing your network inside WITS. Again, if I need to refer to my personal experience coming to WITS as an outsider, I also have to find out what is actually available at WITS. Sometimes, that there is a lot of equipment that you don't even know where it is, that you just discover, oh, there is this laboratory, there is this equipment. So I would say that that's very important to have people that you can talk to, and interact and try to see if you can find your network. And then I would say try to see what kind of network can you actually create outside WITS. As I say, obviously, we're talking about applied research. You would go maybe different people in different companies, but you can also talk to people in different research centers. There can be local research center, research institution, but also people from overseas. So you can start to create your network of people that can work with you, to making sure that what you're doing is relevant. It's something that is important in the present, that you're not stuck in a topic that maybe was interesting like, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago, and now no one cares about it anymore because, it's gone. So for doing that, obviously it's not easy, but sometimes you can start with even simple thing. You're doing, the moment you're starting to work in your activity, you're doing your literary survey. Of course, you will stumble in a lot of different type of paper, different find of publication or research contribution that are out there. But you would say that maybe the moment you're starting to work on a specific area, certain names, there will be there, and even if it's slightly different names, the research group will be the same. So I would say that there is nothing, there is all this system, there is LinkedIn, that there is your I don't know, ResearchGate and, you know, all these research network that you can also tap in. You can email people and say, look, we're working in this area, we're working in this direction, you know, maybe something that we can work together. And I think that's also something, you know, very important, because then you can expand your research in a specific direction. Maybe they can help you with some kind of equipment that is, you know, available out there. And same thing, obviously, if you have the chance to go to conference, you know, maybe now even these, unfortunately, is virtual conferences, but in real conference, people, you know, they try to or, you know, event, or sometimes some expo, some symposium, you know, where that is linked to what you're doing. I'm not really I know I'm talking a lot, but I'm not really a very I tend to be quite shy, and I understand that obviously can be daunting when you have, you know, hundreds of people around you to go and starting to talk to someone. But maybe you're just waiting for, you know, someone, and you just gave a talk and you're approaching them, oh, I really like what you're doing, you know, so you have an idea of what kind of environment are they actually working within, and you can start to create a little bit more, I would say, this collaboration. Okay. Then, as general suggestion, I would say, when you're working on something that maybe you find that it's quite innovative, okay, you need to just making sure that you're not making mistake. And this is sometimes is a rookie mistake. We did the same thing. Okay, we found something nice. You find something new. You're so excited about what, you know, your findings are, that the first things you want to go to the conference and tell everyone what you're doing. Okay, now that's obviously nice, because, you know, maybe you'll I don't know, you will attract attention, so this networking exercise will help you, but maybe it's not the 100% smart thing to do. So, for example, to us, what happened is that the moment that we have an idea, is the first things maybe is speaking with people at WITS Enterprise. I don't know if you know, it's one of the branch at WITS. You know, there is a lot of people that they can help you to develop your idea, looking for extra funds, but there is an entire section that they're dealing with patenting. And that I think is something, especially if you have something that you think it's new, that is very important to follow up with. So for us, for example, what happened is that I can't even remember, I was thinking how we actually got there, but we got in contact with someone at WITS Enterprise, probably where some of these innovation events, and we mentioned that we have this new thing that maybe I will, if I have time, I will explain you a little bit about later. And they said, no, you guys, you're not going to that conference if you haven't filed at least a provisional patent. So because as I say, we're working on new technology, we had this idea that, you know, now there is more than one patent out on the concept, but we actually got a lot of help from WITS Enterprise to protect, let's say, our idea before we actually going out in a public space like a conference, and then we open up to everyone. So it was very quick. I mean, at least the first step is very quick, but at least it will protect you, you know. And then after, you're actually free to go out and try, you know, to tap in some sort of collaboration. So if you have something, as I said, that you think is innovative, maybe think second and contact, you know, the people that, you know, they're obviously working for us at WITS, is like a WITS obviously community that can actually help us to protect your idea. And the same thing, obviously, the moment before you go in I don't know, an exchange program, or if you know, if you find obviously the way to get out there, or maybe you're spending time at a company, you know, a local company, some internship period, maybe, you know, you can actually look into these things. Just making sure that whatever idea you have, you know, you kind of protecting yourself a little bit with this patenting exercise. And then, as I say, try to be smart. If you are in contact with a specific company, you will find someone that is, you know, it's more willing to work with you or collaborate with you. Sometimes can be someone young, a youngster person, you know, that maybe it's a little bit more open-minded and has time maybe, you know, to try new things. But sometimes can be someone senior, you know, that it's can actually work almost as a mentor, you know, and can be interested in what you're doing, and it can guide you a little bit more in that direction. So the idea is that, as I say, as I was saying at the very beginning, to making sure that you align what you're doing with relevant research or something that is practically interest. Create the team of people that can help you, you know, that you can count on when times come that you actually need help, and try to go out as much as possible and create this connection. Okay. One, it will make sure that what you do in terms of research is probably more interesting. But you can even be, like, how can I say, selfish and think that in any case, if you're smart and during your postgraduate period, you establishing connection with the outer industry can be an opportunity to work if you don't want to remain at WITS. You know, if you're obviously going out, it would be nice to have already someone that work with you, knows how you work, you know, that you have, you know, an idea. Maybe it's easier to actually find some possibility for work in the future. But also, if you decide to remain as an academic at WITS, for example, obviously another university, can be nice point for collaboration. Okay, and then obviously again, there is the problem of finding money, and there are so many different sources. You know, I mean, sometimes we had period, especially, you know, back in what it was like 2011, 2012, you know, so after a couple of years that was here, we apply for literally everything. And there is, you know, funds for bursary for student, but there is also funds for you guys to travel overseas. There are exchange program. There are funds specific for research equipment. There are funds for that are funding research that is in collaboration with industry. So, for example, with the Department of Science Innovation now, that they're actually funding only activity if you have interest from a specific company, you know, so a local company, an international company. So it's important, as I say, that you try to explore all these routes, you know, because maybe you're lucky and all, you know, the funds come to you, but you need to start to create your small what do I say? My previous boss is say you're creating your empire. That's the direction you have to go, you know. And maybe you won't stay at WITS forever, but you can be a step, you know, into the right direction. Okay, and that is also another skill that can be useful for you in future. Maybe then you're leading a project, or you're, you know, responsible of project. You're working within a project in your, you know, future university or company. Know how to ask for money is actually a very important skill to have, you know, because it's always more or less the same structure what people are expecting to see, that you can actually use at your own advantage. Okay, so I would say this is how I was thinking. Maybe this is a little bit my suggestion. If you have questions, otherwise maybe I can just show you, but it would take a little bit of a bit to explain you, for example, one of the topic that you have been working during this year. Rodney?
Yes, that's fine.
Hello, everybody.
Rodney? Anyone?
Can you hear me, Prof? Can you hear me?
Yes, no, yes.
Yes, sorry about that. So I was just going to say, thank you very much for the presentation and the points that you put across. I just want to add just briefly some of the skills I think as a student our colleagues here can learn. One of the big skills is really interpersonal skills. How you relate with your peers in terms of your research can really be a big step in terms of how you relate with companies and different institutions internationally when you get the opportunity to travel for conferences, whether it's local or international. conferences are a great place to really develop a good foundation for your collaboration. You might not necessarily know an industry, but you typically find in conferences you have industrial players who attend. If there's anything I can tell you, those tea breaks, those coffee breaks, those are actually not to eat scones and drink tea. Those are actually for networking. In fact, Prof is aware, we've done quite a lot of research with her. A lot of the collaborations I've been able to fortunately develop that are even helping my current students is because while I was a student, I'll be able to meet with people during conferences. People are typically very open and very interested in a lot of the work you're doing now. So as Prof said, in terms of quote unquote building your own empire, it actually starts now. Don't ever underestimate those presentations, conferences, opportunities to just talk with somebody and sell your idea. It doesn't even have to be your own research, but even something you'd like to do maybe when you're done with your research and you're using your research as an opportunity to launch in that direction. I would really encourage, please use those platforms. And even if you see somebody present in a topic in an industry you'd like to go to, even if you're not interested, just go and smile with them. Go talk with them. Say you enjoyed this, you like this, so and so. They'll give you their card. And that card becomes an email that eventually becomes a project, that eventually becomes funding, that gives an opportunity to do research you want to do. So please take advantage of that.
Yeah.
And I think
so,
the last
so just to give you an example, okay, there was, I always, apart from this year, that is a crazy year, I really like my postgraduate student. I have the opportunity to go out, and travel, going to conference and meeting people. As you say, sometimes it is embarrassing, but I have one of my first postgraduate student. Oh my God, I was almost ashamed for him because he knows, the people he want to talk to. He look at the people that were attending the conference. He look at the paper. He knows, as Rodney said, the most important key player that you will find there. So that's your one-shot opportunity, probably, maybe to meet into this, and speak directly with these people. He will never stop. Every tea break, lunch break, cocktail, I don't know, social function that was there, break in between maybe one session and the other. You will always go and speak with people, and people, even if you don't finalize, you don't have to finalize everything there, but then we'll remember, it's that guy that I met there from South Africa, you just need that, just put your face or your name somewhere, and they will remember you, and then everything, we are human beings. It will make things so much easier for you rather than, having very, cold communication. Unfortunately, it's the social aspect of this event, I think, is probably the most important thing. And it's honestly the thing that I'm missing this year, because it looks like almost we're starting to lose, that network of people. And when you are in an area, you would see that the people are there. They tend to be, I don't want to say the same group, but, they tend to be people more or less in the same area of research. So please try. That was just the point.
And if you allow me to just add to that, Prof, as well. Sorry, Malebo, I keep cutting in before they can ask questions. If you allow me, Malebo, can I give one last comment?
You see, Malebo, Rodney is like this. He's not the shy one, compared to me. Rodney is definitely not the shy one. He will know everyone by the end of the conference. Yes, please go ahead.
Prof, I'm even surprised you said you're shy. Even my class is confused. I don't believe this.
Guys,
don't believe, Prof. That's a story.
Public speaking in public, it's something that I had to, learn slowly to do. Yeah, so I promise you, first time in class, panic attack, like proper panic. It's not, I'm telling you, I have my slightly different way, but I'm not the one, as I say, as some of my postgraduate students will go straight and on arithmetic. I'm going, I'm not shameless like this.
Shameless. So the last point I wanted to just pass across the team, on top of everything you said, which is really quite brilliant, is know the national agenda of the country. That's so important. where is the government investing? What is the Vision 2030? I'm telling you, that is so critical for how you can get, because the major funding player is actually government. The real big corporates get some form of support at some level, either business with government or collaborating with government. I know in our time, really big thing was titanium. And everyone was getting into, because by 2022, the country really wanted to be really a big player in the titanium space, whether it was through mining it, beneficiating it, converting it into aerospace products. And if you aligned a lot of what you are doing with that, you got the key to so many corporates, so many industries in terms of that direction. We were quite fortunate that we had aligned ourselves with that. But I'm just one key thing I would encourage as young researchers growing, either you go into industry or you stay as a researcher. What is the government or the national agenda? Where is the government looking to in the next 10, 15 years? That's really where you either want to align your research, if you're not fortunate to do that, and maybe your supervisors are not open to it, start to develop capability. The nice thing about research is you can tie anything you're doing to anything else, especially in either the engineering or built environment space. So try as best as you can to know, make it your business to know the national agenda and articulate yourself accordingly. That was my last point. Thank you.
Yeah. No, Rodney has got this, and as I say, we can be stubborn up a certain point. Just to give you an example, when I arrived here, I finished my PhD on TIS technology, friction stir welding. Okay. So obviously I was dreaming to carry on with that, because I got very excited. I spent a lot of time. I have all my contact here, and that's obviously something that I really like to do. And obviously I try to do. We do it, But then I basically discovered there is a full research, actually quite big research group in Port Elizabeth. They already have the equipment, and they have a very, very strong research in that area. So you see, now trying to compete with that starting from zero is obviously quite complicated, because as Rodney was saying, there was obviously interest in the technology, but one of the things that people also don't like too much is to duplicate, like duplication of fund by the same equipment twice. So when you started to talk about pieces of equipment that cost you several millions, there is really no point to this. Let's say there is space up to a certain point to compete with other group, but then at a certain point, probably it's better to either collaborate, or I don't want to say give up, but try not to obviously wasting time in one direction where you are not unique, that you are not a strong partner, because otherwise then there is no point. So Rodney knows what we did. There was the moment where everything was titanium. And we moved to titanium. We have been doing titanium machining, optimization titanium machining. We still carry on now this. Then we started this adventure of laser that takes, probably 90% of my research time at this point. And obviously we put in a lot of resources there. We created something that is unique. Now it's the moment of 3D printing, additive manufacturing, because for different reasons, ties in with the titanium drive that we were talking, of which we were talking about before, that is very important for South African industry. So now obviously we try to move in the direction of additive manufacturing, because again, we are researcher, so you don't want maybe just get stuck in just one area for forever. Sure, it's nice because obviously you're specialized in an area, but the moment that you have some skill, some testing skill, or some simulation skill, some equipment, then you would see that it's not too overcomplicated to just adjust, and starting to move in the direction where you see there is interest, there is demand, where the government is actually investing money. Guys, someone with questions? Yes, Malebo, sorry.
Yes, I wanted to say thank you to you and Rodney, because so often we just think about getting the next degree and the next degree, and we never think about how we can network to propel our careers. And what you said about collaboration, I just wanted to know how to incentivize companies to buy into your idea, especially if they have their own R&D department?
Okay, so what you can do is that we also do the same, so out of the entire company, okay, so especially big companies, smaller companies is a different story, but if it's quite a big company, they will have a slightly different department. So because obviously we are a university, probably the first contact point should be people in the research and development area, because your idea is obviously to propose something new. Okay, so obviously the company, before implementing any new technology, any new process, any modification to what is already established, is already certified, has been already approved, there is all the paperwork in place, would need obviously to see a financial advantage or something that will make the difference and will put them on the map for some specific type of technology. So usually the first people is actually research and development. Okay, then obviously you should try to familiarize what their specific market is, and I would say you need to sell yourself a little bit, so we're not usually commercial people, like in terms of selling or stuff, but we need to learn to be a little bit smart in that direction and try to explain sometimes even with simplified words, why what you're doing can be important for them, why what you try to achieve, the direction you want to develop, is aligned with what the company actually needs to do, and you obviously try to explain yourself. Now, and I don't want to sound, I don't know, arrogant here, you will find all sorts of people on the industry side. Maybe you have someone that has got a degree similar to you, they've been involved in the past on activities similar to yours, and you will understand each other. You have the same kind of language. Sometimes you find people that, yes, they are in their position, but maybe they have, I don't know, a master in some economical, financial business. They don't really know what you're talking about, So you always need to assess quickly the situation, and then the moment you're starting to talk, you have to pitch your conversation at the right level, okay? And don't be shy to go very simple, because sometimes it's not because, there is no problem in actually admitting that you coming maybe from different background, different experience, and they won't be able obviously to understand what you're doing. So you need to be ready to change, if you want, your virtual presentation, if you want, to the forum, to the people that you have in front of you, and try obviously to sell your idea in such a way that can be comprehensible to everyone. Okay, it would be the same thing if you want to present your research to your professor at a conference, or if you want to present it to your colleague, or maybe you want to go to a talk to undergraduate student, or maybe they send you to an outreach program in high school, and now you need to explain what you do in some, I don't know, some simple, understandable word. So I would say that's the first things, and it's making clear that they know what the benefit for them are. Okay, unfortunately, some of them can have interest on some financial aspect, but some of them, they can see just the profit, for the company. I mean, it's normal in private, and they can't see the big advantage. And remember that whatever idea you have can be applicable in different area. So, for example, what we're doing now, I would like to do everything, for the aerospace sector. But to be honest, we have application in mining, we have application, I don't know, in automotive, in completely biomedical application, so you always need to think a little bit out of the box to which area, which industry can actually be interested in what you're doing.
Okay, thank you. I don't know if anyone else has any questions for Prof.
Hello, Prof.
Hi.
Yeah, Desmond speaking here. Actually, I'm glad to say
You're alive. We said
I'm
it was
here.
okay.
Yes, I think that you and Rodney had buttressed that point, but I just want to contribute my 2 cents worth. We are in an era of the co-creation of ideas, and we are in an era of collaboration. Those days of stand alone, and I've seen this especially among African researchers, where they say it is my idea, they will steal my idea. I think that the thing is that we need to move into an era where we actually evolve in a way such that when people get to read what we've done or people get to listen to our ideas, they can help us fine tune them. And that is what has made the developed countries far, far, far ahead, because you start from a point, but then we know that there is no one fits all. So it is very important that as we young academics, we are coming up, we try to move away or shy away from that thing of saying that, oh, it is my idea, it is my idea. Yes, you could pioneer the thing, but the thing is that once the thing evolves and people get to contribute, that is where you begin to see that, okay, you are moving from one place to the other. So I think that as we are coming up, and also our research, especially those of us doing the PhD, you would want to build a solid foundation that will give you the urge. Because, like Prof said, not that she was sounding arrogant, but there are a lot of things out there that people have done, and some of the things that Rodney will say, there are quack engineers all over the place. So it's very, very important that when we step out with some form of clarity, and we step out knowing very well that when they say, oh, this is Prof. Polese, they can say, okay, this one, it's quality. If they say this is Rodney, they can say this is quality. So I think that we should also look at it from that perspective and not just going to get another degree. Otherwise, I think that degree is not really what the paper is written on. I think, Prof, that is all that I want to contribute.
It's true. And remember, guys, I mean, just a word on advice. Sometimes, okay, it's horrible to say, but when you go into these other, maybe big international conferences, you always have to fight a little bit more, because you always be the kid that's coming from Africa, and you always have to sit 1 second, and explain people where you from, which institution you're from, what we're doing, what is development. So, there is a little bit of obviously that kind of preconcept that you have to fight 1 second, okay? And I think obviously things are definitely improving in that direction. People obviously they slowly, let's say the international community became less ignorant about things, but unfortunately, that's sometimes a little bit of the problem. It can be people from Africa, it can be people from India, there can be people from China. You want to make sure that when you're going out there, your quality is actually very, very, very good, okay? Because otherwise, what you're risking of is, you are not starting an advantage point. You can't say, I'm coming from Oxford University, and all of a sudden people would think, oh, there has to be good quality. We have to build always around whatever research group you have a strong name of quality. So I mean, Rodney knows, me, I mean, his Prof. Cornish, we never go for big numbers, okay? We want to make sure that when something goes out there is actually good quality, okay? Because it's also in terms of research, is your reputation is very important, and you obviously need to done just to making sure that people are listening to you. And as I say, unfortunately, at the very beginning, you may start not with the right foot, because they won't know, maybe what facility do you have. Even if you have first class facility, and a nice research group, you will have to fight a little bit that kind of, let's say, of preconcept. Okay.
Prof, if you allow me to weigh in, Malebo,
Yes.
do you mind if I can weigh in briefly?
Yeah.
Yes, you can.
Just on 2 points. I think the first one on Malebo's question around how do you engage with industry, just to add on what Prof has said, just to build on. For industry, in most cases, it's not what you're giving to them, but what they can get back. Not what they're giving you, but what they can get back. I think that's always got to be the precipice. Yes, you want to go there and be able to benefit from an engagement, but they always want to know what are they going to be able to get back? What's the value add for them having this interaction or collaboration with you? One of the nice things we have, at least at VETS, I can say, is I think Malebo, you're from Kemet, we've got quite a large number of facilities in terms of machinery, equipment, particularly for analytical equipment, all the way to XRD equipment in chemistry, microscopes, so on and so forth. And I have found that these have proven to be quite a valuable value add when engaging with industry. That as much as we're looking to collaborate, we can also partner with them on a common project that can give them valuable impact, insight. So you're literally leveraging on VETS in terms of the resources we have. And we found that has gone a really long way in terms of developing collaborations with industry. And as much as Prof has said, yes, you might find somebody who's got a similar qualification to you, but they qualified 10, 15 years ago. And you're coming in with really cut edge. For your project to be proposed and approved at VETS, it has to be something at least new, something relevant, something that's moving with the current times. So you're bringing a really fresh pair of eyes to a situation that they may have done a while ago. So if you're leveraging on things like this, this really encourages industry to have a conversation with you. And the last thing when engaging with industry is there's no substitute to doing your homework. Matlatse knows this. One of my students, we had to go and engage one of the industrial players. We had to do our homework. What do they do? What do they engage in? What parts are they involved in? Such that when you're coming to them, you even impress them about what you know about their own industry. That really opens up a nice dialogue. So it's not just enough to ask for what you'd like to do with them, but the mere fact that you've done the due diligence to even carry a conversation around the industry they're involved in. That really helps breaking the ice when you're engaging with industry. I'm glad we're recording, so maybe you can go through those. And then on international conferences, as what Prof. Pelesa has also mentioned, I cannot reiterate this enough to young upcoming academics. One key attribute we have is that we are from Africa. I know sometimes when you go, it might be seen as a downplay, but I'm telling you, it's an upplay. We've been quite fortunate to present internationally, and we do things differently. And that's where the novelty comes a lot with our research. The mere fact that we are sort of far removed, most of it has been done in the Northern Hemisphere, and Europe really intercollaborates so much amongst each other that one idea is developed in Vienna in Austria, it just runs through Germany, runs through Sweden, and they sort of just gravitate towards that. And when you come and present, because you're on this particular locality, you have to come up with your own solutions. And I think Prof can reiterate to that. We've always been found to do things differently, but do it special, because we didn't think like the way they thought, because maybe we were limited with access to a particular resource they had on that side, and we had to engineer something on this side. And that has really made us very, very competitive. And that allows, again, for you to talk with industry, because you're fortunate enough to come from a different region in the world where you have to develop your own technology. Sell that as well. That's really a strength. It's actually not a downplay. It's actually a really good strength that we have amongst ourselves. But like Desmond said, engage with researchers around you who are doing similar things if it's local, and you'll be very pleasantly surprised at the incredible things you'll develop because you're thinking within this space that we have. That's my last comment. Thank you.
Any question?
What Rodney just said touches on my other question that I had about universities fostering relationships with industry. So let's say your supervisor doesn't have enough funding to send you to a conference and that you don't have the networking skills you need to have. How do you think universities can help foster relationships with industry to help the students?
As I say, there are different entities at VETS. For example, VETS Enterprise is actually quite good because they have people that is specialized in different type of funding sources, okay? And as Rodney said, you would see that a lot of them, they might be linked to government, but they have completely different scheme. So it can be money that comes, from South Africa for South Africa. Sometimes it's money that comes from Europe just because you are collaborating with South Africa and so forth. So it's in between, I would say, research office at WITS and WITS Enterprise. There is actually a lot of information, just even on the website, or they have specific talks to people that you can actually go and look, what kind of funds are available in that you can tap in. Okay, and you would discover that, as Rodney was saying, that sometimes it depends from which university, which department, which country you're coming in. It gives people extra points, So maybe it's actually almost convenient for you to have a university in place, or a certain partner in place, or more women in engineering in place. You can be, well, I'm talking engineer, but in general, it can be different sort of fund, and they can actually guide you in this direction. Now, found the specific people to talk to, I would say that maybe, unless obviously there is already some collaboration out there in place, I think that one will basically go back to a little bit to your initiative. Okay, and as I say, you don't have to be shy. You can just contact people, and just explain what you're doing, what kind of activity do you have in mind. If I may say, for example, in this period, maybe just because people, obviously they're more at home, I found that, I don't know, maybe people are a little bit more bored or they have more time because they have less distraction from the normal days. That you actually get replies very, very quickly, and you can actually contact people maybe from different institutes, and you will get feedback very, very quickly. So maybe it's this strange period, we are in now. It's also maybe a moment where people can, I don't know, like set back a little bit from the rush of the everyday, and and try to explore new things, new way of doing things, and basically have more time to engage in these, let's say, long collaboration. As I saw one of my students, he was not able to solve a problem. He took, I'm telling you, I mean, this is undergrads, but he took the name from one of the publication of this method that he was supposed to use. And because, to be honest, he was just lazy, so he didn't want to, or, he was not really managing to figure out how to use this specific method. He contacted this huge professor in the US that honestly, I know him, but I would be embarrassed to say just hi. And he's just, hi, I'm Linda, this is the method. And this guy replied to him, and they have a whole email conversation, exchange of email until the point, where this professor say, yes, but who is exactly your supervisor? Because, at a certain point, he was actually almost doing work for him. And so when I saw this email, I was like, oh my God, it's like, it's just these guys, that is the shameless part. But that's what happened, and maybe, as I said, this is a guy in the US, so obviously, they're also going through part of lockdown, especially government institution. So, so he had time, to address that. So maybe, as I say, now is a strange period of, obviously we can't really have much of the normal conference time, but maybe, we can contact people in other ways. And now, using these means of meeting with Teams and Google Meet and whatever before was, really the last resource. We would prefer to drive, to fly, to go around. Now that we learn that we can actually do things like this, why not? So maybe you can try to contact someone and have Teams meeting with the professor somewhere. And maybe you will find that, academics, they are strange animals. Sometimes they're actually quite available, and people in industry can be the same thing. Maybe they are at home, maybe part of them, they're partially retrenched, so they're at home waiting to figure out what to do in 2021, so maybe it's the time to tap into, to see and explore new idea. Maybe they actually have more time now than in the normal days.
Prof, can I also add something?
Yes.
Also, talking about funding, I think that one of the things that VIT has is what we call the travel grant. It's something that students can actually explore. The second thing I want to say is that most of us here, we have some form of a first degree. Let us also join professional bodies. Like, for instance, you have Malebo, we have the South African Institute of Mining and Metallurgy, where most of the conferences, when you're a student, you get to pay a very minimal price, a minimal cost for it. We also have the Microscopic Society of Southern Africa, where Rodney is very, very much involved. So if we are able to, you can also, with your first degree, you can also get your professional accreditation from the Engineering Council of South Africa, that is if you are doing any of the engineering courses. The beauty with some of things is that you have what you call the Minerals Initiative, which is also in the US. When you join some of these things, they give you a student rate, and then that you can talk with your supervisor, and then your supervisor, you can also find a way to plan around it. I would suggest that we shouldn't do things in a haste. When we start a project or we start doing something, at least let us suggest things to our supervisor and say, Prof, I see this conference. I think that it would be good we present. What do you think? And then you put your heads together, then you can be able to raise the funds for it. When we do that, then the professor sees that, oh, my student is progressive. Most of the times we sit down on the fence and then we want the supervisor to say, attend this conference, do that. I think that we should become students that are proactive rather than reactive. And then when we do that, it helps us have that bargaining power. A lot of us, we say, oh, things are difficult, and then we don't even go out there to approach people. I'll give this an example. There was a student who had, a VIT student who had so much fees to pay, and then he spoke to me about it, and I says, why don't you approach fees office and probably write to some of the people that can within the university? And lo and behold, the student, he was reluctant to do it. It did, and then apparently there was some funding lying down nobody was using, and they gave it to the student. So you need to go on a fishing expedition. You need to talk to people. And also, one thing I want to say is that, please, whether you are doing a master's or a PhD, learn to publish, because the hallmark of a good scientist or an engineer is your ability to communicate. That communicating, if it is lacking, then you have a problem. You must learn how to present your work well, because obviously, to put it in a lame way, no one really cares what you do in your lab. And it's only when you present it in a way that is very, very much appealing. I could say I was a bit late to this meeting because I had to present a pitch. I had to pitch the proposal of my life this very afternoon. And I was talking to 3 professors in the US. One was dismissive, the other 2 were very, and I had to tell them, look, this can work in Africa. And I use Africa as a caveat because yes, it can be tested here, we can do it here. So please, I think that the message that Prof and Rodney and the team are all saying today is that give yourself time, but make sure you go out there and take it. Because if you sit there, it won't happen. And like I always say, pressure makes diamonds and fire purifies gold. So if you want to be that person that we can say, that is a VIT student, or that is an engineer, that is an economist, or that is a construction, whatever, you need to make sure that 1, you put in the time. Number 2, you get to know people. Number 3, go out there and ask, please knock on some doors. A professor said to me yesterday, you don't need too many yeses. You just need 1 correct yes. And when that correct yes comes through, that is where it pushes you to the next level. And I think that if we can do this, then collectively we can get what we want. Thank you.
Yeah, no, Desmond is totally right. Even the things of the association, it's actually very important. Remember that I mentioned to you that when I arrived here, I have this interest on this type of welding. That was actually at the time was Prof. Koutsaris. I think he was actually retiring probably that year. And they said, no, come with me. There is a meeting of the South African Welding Association, you know, and I went there. It's one of the first places where I actually meet a lot of people from, you know, from South Africa. That was actually very, very important for me as well. And you guys are also lucky that you are in Johannesburg. So I would say that if something happened in South Africa, majority of these events, they're probably going to be here or maybe, you know, somewhere relatively close. So as a student, Desmond is totally right. You always enjoy super huge discount on you know, whatever registration, especially this year that, you know, that everything is digital. So obviously the real costs are going down substantially. Maybe take advantage of that, you know, and you can pitch, and maybe you're too young, or obviously your work is not too far for going for a full presentation, but maybe you have a poster, you know, you have the opportunity in any case to break the ice, to learn how to present your work, you know, to try to, as we discussed before, being a little bit less shy and learn how to engage in people in these, let's say, more professional or let's say academic or industrial environments.
Thank you for that. I think the key takeaways from today are that we should be networking more and putting ourselves out there and allowing our work to speak for itself. So I think that brings us to the end of this webinar. Thank you so much, Prof, for sharing your wise words, as well as Desmond and Rodney for some key takeaways that you gave us. And thank you to the audience for all being here. Can you please kindly evaluate the webinar in the link that Desmond put in the chat? And yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. No, I was like, you getting marks for this as well. I was coming here to escape from marking.
Don't worry, you're the one who's been marked now. So we'll give you feedback within 10 days.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Prof. Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys. It's been a pleasure.
Please kindly evaluate this webinar so that the next one will be better. Thanks.
Oh, you know that I can carry on talking. I have you in the full presentation ready. I didn't even, this was just the start. Okay, thank you so much, guys. No, thank you so much for inviting me. And yeah, you know, so now I'm getting used more to speak into this event.